Sunday evening. Thank you for attending this exciting webinar. My name is Bill Cardiff. I am not the star of the show. The star of the show are the other two lovely ladies who are smiling brightly right now. I'm only going to take a minute to introduce myself and Ayala Tours, and then I will turn it over to our two lovely hosts. As I said, my name is Bill Cardiff. I work for Ayala Tours. We are the travel agency empowered to put this tour together for all of you. Hopefully, many of you will sign on to actually go to Italy. Enjoy this webinar is nice virtually, but to experience it in person with Sarah and Susan is going to be a whole different experience. Ayala Tours has been a full-service travel agency since 1986. We serve primarily Jewish travelers because most of our trips are Jewish heritage and have Jewish history and lots of strong Jewish components with them. We, as I said, are full service. We have everything from travel planners to flight specialists to tour leaders and all the gamut. I personally have worked with these two ladies before. Mostly in person with Sarah, not too long ago, just a few months ago. She and I led a tour together through Spain and Portugal. I will tell you that working with Sarah and Susan is going to be an explosion of your senses. It is a delightful experience. It is not only fun and entertaining, but it's tasteful. And I mean that in more ways than one. It is full of entertainment. It is full of insightfulness into the Ladino communities that you're going to visit, and it's going to be full of surprises. You are in very good hands. You should enjoy this webinar to the full extent, but then you should sign up for the trip because you will be in for an incredible treat. If you do sign up, at the end of the presentation from Sarah and Susan, we'll tell you of a little incentive to help you sign up before too long. But without further ado, as I said, I'm not the star of the show. Let me turn it over to the stars of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Susan and Sarah.
Well, thank you, Bill. Hi, everybody. I am Sarah Aroeste, and on this webinar, we also have Susan Barocas, and together we are Savor. Savor's tagline is a Sephardic music and food experience, because that is what you will get when you travel with us. And we are so delighted to be presenting this webinar that will hopefully shed some light on what our trip will be like in southern Italy and in Sicily, where there is such an incredible amount of Jewish food, music, and the history of Sephardic Italian life, which some of you might not be as familiar with. And so we are going to be talking about it. But first, what does Savor mean? And this is how you pronounce it. Savor means taste or flavor in Ladino. Ladino being the Judeo-Spanish dialect of Sephardic Jews. It is the language of my family and of Susan's. And we lead trips both internationally and also in North America that combine literally the flavors and tastes of Sephardic culture. We have traveled most recently with Bill we started in the Canary Islands, and as he said, we went through Spain. We even went to Morocco, Gibraltar, and we ended in Lisbon. We've also led trips with Savor from Rome to Seville, from Athens to Istanbul, and lots of other places in between. But what makes our trip so interesting and I think special is because this is a hands-on experience. Again, our tagline is a Sephardic music and food experience with the emphasis on experience. You will be cooking with us, as you will see a little bit later in this webinar. This is one of our Savor trips in a cooking school in Istanbul, Turkey. Here is some of our participants in a cooking school in Rome. So in addition to the cooking, we've got the music. You will have private music workshops, learning about the music of the places where we will be visiting. So this is all to say that what we're doing tonight is just a little taste. You will be singing with me tonight. You will be cooking with Susan tonight. And this is a little bit of a taste of what our tours will bring. They are hands-on, experiential trips. And we're going to dive in right now and tell you a little bit about the place where we are going. So just quickly, a word about me. I am a Sephardic educator, mostly through music, mostly through Ladino song. That is my background. And what I'm really excited about sharing in Italy is that Italy has its own unique tradition of Jewish music. There are Sephardic influences, but ones that might be unfamiliar to those of you who know Ladino music. A lot of the Ladino music that many are familiar with is influenced by Ottoman Sephardic life. But in Italy, there are many other influences. So we're going to be learning about Sephardic and specifically Italian Jewish music, and you will get a taste of that very soon. But first, I'm going to kick it over to Susan to introduce herself and to talk a little bit about why we're going to Southern Italy in the first place. Susan.
Thanks, Sarah. And thank you, Bill, by the way, for that great introduction. It's always a pleasure to work with you and Ayelet. So most people do not even know that there were so many Jews who lived in Italy, and especially in southern Italy. Other than Rome, there was a huge Jewish community in Sicily and southern Italy since the times of the Romans. So we're talking since ancient times. Some came as slaves with the Romans as they swept across after the destruction of the temple. Some came as traders. There was a whole variety of ways that Jews got to Italy, and especially to southern Italy. So Sicily itself, as many of you might know, was ruled by many, many different people. The Romans, the Greeks, the whole history there. And there were about, at the high point, 50,000 Jews living in Sicily and southern Italy, which is really kind of hard to imagine back in the Middle Ages. This is what was there. So what happened, and they were part of commerce. There are remains all over of synagogues. And I'm going to actually talk about some specific sites in a minute. But in the broad picture, in 1492, Spain was ruling Sicily. So when the Inquisition forced out the Jews of Spain, it also forced the Jews out of Sicily. And that's when many of them went to other parts of Italy. They went north into the Ottoman Empire. They went into the Balkans. And some in Sicily, and I'm not talking about the Jewish community, but the general community and historians say that Sicily never really recovered from the loss of its Jewish population, that it never really recovered from the loss of all the commerce, the learning, the schools, and just the life that the Jews had brought. So they left, and interestingly, we're going to be visiting Catania. Catania, for the first time in 500 years, is using its synagogue again. In 2022, it got a Torah scroll, and in 2023, it hired a rabbi, interestingly from Argentina, and we are going to that synagogue to see it. And most of the Jews who live there are B'nai Anusim. They're ones who converted, or we call them conversos also. They converted to Catholicism to avoid the Inquisition. And so that's why they stayed there. And now many of them are finding their Jewish roots and converting back to Judaism. So it's very exciting to have this synagogue being used again, which, by the way, is on the slopes of Mount Etna. And that brings me to Pompeii, which we will visit. I don't know if you know this, because I didn't know it until I started doing research. There's actually evidence of Jewish synagogues and Jewish life at Pompeii preserved. There was a Jewish community, and there are ruins that are preserved and things that they have found that document that there was Jewish life in Pompeii at the time of the volcanic disaster. We will also go to Syracuse. And in Syracuse, which had a very large Jewish community also, is the oldest mikveh in Europe. In all of Europe is in Sicily. And we're going to go there and see it. And we also, there's Jewish museums. There's this sense of, this is a history we're proud of. Okay, people in Sicily are proud of their heritage of being ruled by so many people, and also of having so many people come and join their cultures together. And so in Sicily, we have many, many different cultures. And I just want to think if I have any other particular, there's a lot of Jewish quarters left, synagogues from 10th century, 11th century, 12th century. And it's really the kind of place that you start to feel, I don't want to say the presence of ghosts, but the presence of the spirits and of all the people who helped create these places. And so I'm going to move on to the culinary side of things, because it's very interesting that Jewish cuisine is very much a part of Sicilian cuisine. And by the way, in case any of you don't know this, the beloved, I just forgot the word for it, with the cream inside the shell.
Cannoli.
Thank you. The beloved cannoli was from Sicily. That's where it started. Not any place else in Rome. It started in Sicily. Also, what started in Sicily is one of the dishes that's considered kind of one of the trademark dishes of Sicily. And Bill, if you could spotlight me, people will be able to see me cook easier. I'm not spotlighted. One of the trademark dishes, which is caponata. And caponata, what I'm doing right now, because I'm going to try to make, I have a recipe I created. Thanks. That's a quick caponata, because it really only takes less than a half hour, okay, to make this. When caponata can take much longer, a lot of people fry the eggplant separately, take it out, put other things in. What I'm doing is I have oil to coat the bottom of the pan, and I am adding half-inch cut up eggplant. And this was about almost 2 pounds of eggplant to get this. And it's on medium high because I actually want to cook it fairly quickly, starting to sizzle, which is great. I want to tell you about the roots of this dish. No one really knows. They know that it's a Jewish dish for several reasons. One is because of the use of eggplant, which the Christians did not do. It was definitely a Jewish thing to use eggplant. The other is because it has agradote sauce, and that is a sweet and sour sauce, which we are creating today with vinegar and a little sugar. And this sauce is what this dish is known for. It brings it all together at the end with these wonderful flavors. And now hopefully this is going to cook quickly, and we'll be able to show you a lot of, and hopefully by the end, we'll come back and see the finished dish.
We are going to talk a little bit more about the trip logistics. We know there are a lot of questions, and I also promised a little bit of music. And I will connect all of the dots eventually, but I want Bill to have a chance to jump in. Is there anything you would like to say, Bill, about the trip?
Yes, of course, of course. So, folks, I opened up telling you a little bit about Ayala Tours and the full service agency that we are. And we're partnering with Susan and Sarah. Obviously, they are the content providers of the trip. We are the background. We're the logistics. We're the planners. We're we created the website and are designing the itinerary with under their guidance, of course. But we wanted to. I'm going to put. I already did this once, and I'll do it a second time. I'm going to put the website into the chat so that everyone can take a look at their convenience at all of the details. And we have everything incorporated, including a group flight, all the transportation within the tour, the itinerary. There's a link on the website to the full itinerary, the day-to-day activities that we're going to do, the meals that are included, the meals that you're going to have hands-on with, the entertainment that's going to come, the information and the history of Sephardic Judaism in these areas. All of that is outlined on the website in great detail, and you can look at that at your leisure and get an idea on dates and pricing and things like that. We also wanted to let you know that as a participant of this webinar, if you do sign up for the trip before the end of August, whatever pricing you see on the website will be reduced by $150 per person. You just have to mention that you are on the webinar, and we will reduce the price by $150 per person. So the best thing to do is to go on the website. Then if you have questions, particularly about the trip that pertain to you or anything about the itinerary that you want to know about, you just give a call and you'll speak with one of my colleagues, and we'll answer all of your questions and get everybody situated. Sarah, how many people are we taking on this trip?
So our tours are very bespoke because we want everyone to have the opportunity to be in cooking schools and to be in the music workshop. So our trips tend to hover around the 25-person mark. That is really the average of how many people that we take on our trips.
Which is a very sweet spot. From an experienced tour leader, which I am, 25 is the sweet spot. It is a great number where there's flexibility in travels, but there's a good number of people to get to experience with other people, and it's really a good number. Which also means that there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of you watching this webinar right now, and even more, double the amount who registered, who couldn't make it, but are going to watch the video, which means that there's not a lot of space available. So why not sign up where you can get $150 off? If you have any questions starting tomorrow on Monday, you can give a call to our office. I'm actually going to put the number of the office in the chat also. You can give a call tomorrow and we'll answer all of your questions. Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate, I put in the chat the places that we are highlighting. So again, the entire itinerary day by day is in the website that that Bill put in. But the places that we are visiting are right under that link. And it is really an incredible variety of places. We will be taking trains. We will be taking planes. So there is a little bit of around to hit all of these wonderful places, both in terms of the world history of the Italian cities on their own, but also the Jewish history, which we love Rome, we love Venice, we love other places in Italy, but Southern Italy is a place that not as many people really explore for its Jewish history and its Sephardic history. And our trip is really going to put all of these pieces together between Italian history, Jewish history, the music, the food, the culture. We will be in cooking schools. We will have music workshops, and everything is through this Jewish cultural lens of Southern Italy. So I am going to do a little bit of a song and dance, except I won't be dancing because I'm sitting down. But I do want to share a little taste of what you can expect music-wise. So we see from Chef Susan, some of the Jewish food roots of Southern Italy. And now I'm going to give you a little taste of Italian Jewish music. We're going to go in so much more depth, but this is what you can expect by going on a trip with me and what you will learn. So first, I have to close some circles here, and we're talking about eggplant. I know some of you don't like eggplant, but I hope you will like eggplant in song at least. So in the Sephardic tradition, there is literally a song about 7 ways to prepare eggplant, and it comes from a longer song that has over 30 ways to prepare an eggplant, and that is how beloved the eggplant is in Jewish history and specifically in Sephardic culture. So I am going to share my screen because there's a song I want to teach you all. And we are going to be singing together on our trips. And here we go. Okay, so this is the song 7 Ways to Prepare an Eggplant. And I hope that you will sing along with me. I'm going to teach you the chorus. And this is in the language of Ladino. If you're not familiar with it, I might pronounce things in ways that you do not expect because it is not exactly Spanish. And again, on our trips, you will learn all about what Ladino is. So follow me for the pronunciation, and some of the spellings might look a little funny to you if you speak Spanish. This is its own beautiful language that was born out of the expulsion from Spain when Jews took the Castilian Spanish they had been speaking and combined it with bits and pieces of languages as they dispersed primarily across the Mediterranean basin. So there are elements of Italian and Portuguese and French and Greek and Turkish and Arabic and Hebrew that make up this beautiful, beautiful language of Ladino. And here is one song which espouses the wonders of eggplants. And we're only going to learn 1 or 2 verses, but I do want you to see this connection between music and food and Sephardic culture. The beloved eggplant. Now here is how it goes. Here's the chorus that we are going to learn. A mi Dio será así, que le agrada beber vino, con el vino, 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 mucho y bien a el vino. One more time. A mi Dio será así, que le agrada beber vino, con el vino, 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 mucho y bien a el vino. I'm going to sing the first verse, and then we'll come back to the chorus, and hopefully you can sing loud and proud out to your computers. Here we go. 7 modos de guisar la berenjena. La primera que las guisas es la baba de Elena. Y a la de bocadicos y la mete una cena. Esta comida la llaman comida de berenjena. Here's our chorus. A mi Dio será así, que le agrada beber vino. Con el vino, 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 mucho y bien a el vino. One more verse. La segunda que la guisa es la mujer de chamas, la cavaca por adentro, la hinchida aroma. Esta comida la llaman la comida la dolma. Esta comida la llaman la comida la dolma. A mi Dio será así, que le agrada beber vino, con el vino, 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 mucho y bien a el vino. One more time for the chorus. A mi Dio será así, que le agrada beber vino, con el vino, 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 mucho y bien a el vino. Great job, everybody. I heard you through the computers. And to bring this full circle, I want to teach you an Italian connection specifically to this music. So give me 1 second to go backwards. One of the most famous songs in the Sephardic repertoire is called Adio Querida. Adio Querida, which means goodbye, my dear. And it is a very, very passionate song about a spurned lover. Your mother, when she bore you, she gave you no heart to love anyone else. And the chorus is one of the most recognizable parts of the Sephardic repertoire. Adio, adio, querida, goodbye, my dear. I don't want life since you have embittered it. Go look for another love. Go knock on other doors. As for me, you are dead. It is very dramatic and very, very popular. So I want to teach you the chorus, and then you are going to hear how it connects to Italian music. So first, the chorus goes like this. Actually, I'm going to start with the verse so you can hear that. Tu madre quando ti parió y te quitó el mundo, corazón ella no te dio para amar segundo, corazón ella no te dio para amar segundo. Here's the famous chorus. Adio, adio, querida, no quiero la vida, me la amargaste tú. Adio, adio, querida, no quiero la vida, me la amargaste tú. Now this next part, really, if you know this song, I want to hear you through the computers. Va búscate otro amor, que para mí sos muerta, espera, que para mí sos muerta. Now here's the famous chorus, and I'm going to really emphasize this because we're about to hear this in a totally different way. Adio, adio, querida, no quiero la vida, me la amargaste tú. Adio, adio, querida, no quiero la vida, me la amargaste tú. Okay, now I hope that is an earworm in your ear, because there is another song that some of you may have heard of, and it comes from Verdi's La Traviata. So in one of his most famous operas, we have this very famous aria, Adio del Passato, which almost has the same name as the song we just sang, Adio querida, which was about this embittered lover. And here we have somebody saying goodbye to the past, just like in the other song, goodbye to this love. Now, this song, suspiciously, is exactly the same. I'm going to play a clip. It's a little bit soft. I hope you can hear it. Let's see. The same melody. Bill, can I have a thumbs up if you could hear that?
No.
You could not hear it. Oh no. Okay. Huh.
Sarah, try muting yourself.
Okay. I'm going to mute myself. Let's see. I don't think you would be able to hear me if I muted. I'm not sure you could hear the Let's see. Okay, well, I'll come back to it. So this is homework for everybody then. In the interest of time, know that aria from La Traviata is the same exact melody of the song we just sang. It is exactly the same melody and exactly the same theme. How is that possible? So I'm going to give you two theories. La Traviata literally means the fallen woman and was written by Verdi from a libretto by Francesco Piave in 1948 based on a novel by Alexander Dumas. And both Verdi and the librettist insisted that they had the right to have the production set in the present time. When was the present time? In the 1850s. Now, not only, as I pointed out, does it have the same melody, which hopefully you will, I'm going to put it in the chat so you can all look it up. But the theme is the same. It takes place in the opera at the harshest moment for Violetta, when she realizes that although Alfredo might have come back to her, it is too late. She is dying. Now, the theory has it, the first theory is that Adio Querida, the Ladino song, the Sephardic song, was adapted by an opera fan who heard it in Bulgaria in the 1850s and put his own spin using Ladino words on the melody he heard from the opera. Now, I think the more interesting theory relates to us and why we are going on this trip. Did Verdi copy it from Italian Jews? So here's the Italian Jewish connection. Verdi was born in Roncole, Italy in 1813. His parents were middle-class, educated Catholics. And his father bought a spinet piano for his young son, which indicates that they were people of means. They could afford a piano and that they really supported Verdi's talent from a very young age. And so until the age of 12, Verdi studied at a school in Busseto, Italy, which, because of its distance, it was about 6 kilometers, which was too far to travel every day. Because the school was so good for his musical development, it meant that in order to go to this school, he had to lodge with a family in Busseto, and it was a family of a shoemaker. Who were shoemakers at that time in Italy? Jews. It was a profession held most often by Jews in this town at that time. So might the family that Verdi stayed with, could they have been Jewish? And if so, did Verdi's musical ear, was it influenced by the Jewish prayer melodies he heard at the synagogue or the Ladino songs that he heard circulating around him? So we don't know the correct answer. It could be that a Bulgarian Jew heard the opera and infused his own Sephardic lyrics on it, or I think more interestingly, Verdi was influenced by the Italian Jewish community, and that is how we have this incredibly beautiful aria from this opera. On this trip, you will be learning many other little fascinating tidbits like that and so much more. So now, to end, we are going to go back to Susan to see the results of the caponata. And then we'll take a few more questions if time permits.
So where did it come from? Back to that. Well, there used to be a dish that fishermen's wives would prepare for them, and it was called carbone. It was with fish and tomatoes and vinegar to preserve the fish while they were out at sea. So they could go out for a few days and have some food. What happened? And by the way, you know, eggplant does love oil and it just soaks it up. So I had started out with not as much oil, as I always try to just add a little at a time so it's not so greasy. So at a certain point in the Middle Ages, it's believed, the people could not afford the fish. And they loved this dish, the kind of vinegar-ness of it. And the Jews were known for sweet and sour dishes. Sweet and sour meatballs are part of a lot of different Sephardic cuisines. There's even a dish called Costa Rica's, which is sweet and sour zucchini peels. So they were known for this. So they decided to create this dish in their own way, which is with eggplant, because eggplant is meaty. Eggplant gives you that sense of a meatiness. So we're just cooking this until it starts to soften. We're not worrying about getting it completely cooked through because there's more cooking to come. So we're just taking a few minutes to get it soft and a little bit tender, a little bit brown, and that's it. So they have this dish, and now it's known all throughout Sicily and Italy, and sometimes it's called caponata ebraica or Judea, and it's called those things because it's known as the dish that came from the Jews, essentially. One of the reasons I'm stirring it also is to keep it from sticking. If you use a non-stick pan, you might not have as much, but I love using these stainless steel pans. And you want something that's a little high-sided because there's a lot going in here. At this point, we're going to push the envelope a little bit. I would ordinarily leave it a little longer, but we're going to push the envelope a little and add, this is one very large onion. And I want to say, you should always make a dish your own. You should always. So if I tell you to add one very large onion and you say, I don't really like onion that much, add a small amount. Add what feels right to you. You do not have to do my recipe only. You need to adapt recipes to what you like. And there's many ways to adapt this recipe. Also, by the way, whenever I'm sauteing onions, I add a little salt, draws the liquid out, but I'm only adding half a teaspoon of salt because you will see that we're adding salty ingredients later, so you don't want to over salt at the beginning. And we're going to let this cook down some with also celery. You want to get that. Celery tends to not soften up as easily. Okay, so I have 2 stalks of celery diced fine. You can cut it in chunks. You could do this whole thing chunkier. It really is up to you. You know, and by the way, you can go online and find a zillion recipes for caponata. And that's because there's a zillion different ways to fix it. And people do that. Families have their own recipes, of course. And someone like Etta Serbi-Macklin, who is one of the doyens of Italian Jewish food, puts a carrot in hers for sweetness. Okay. It smells so good already, believe it or not, and I haven't added the garlic yet. So a tool like this is really wonderful rather than a spoon because it helps scrape the bottom. Okay. And we're going to just leave it a few more minutes for the onions to soften. Are there any, by the way, is there any other question?
Yes, we do have one about, can you accommodate the food part for people who are vegan and or don't like eggplant? Ooh, I am certainly not a chef like Susan, but I'm pretty sure caponata depends on eggplant.
There's a key ingredient in the dish. However, the other thing to know is that you can make a dish your own in other ways. For instance, yes, caponata is eggplant. That's the main thing. But why couldn't you try this dish with squash? With something hard like butternut squash. That, and get all the flavors that way. So that's one thing. Plus, I mean, vegan, this is vegan, this dish. And I think every recipe I've ever seen for it is vegan. So it's easy to accommodate. And I would, if you like the recipe and the flavors sound good to you, I would definitely think about trying it with some squash. Now I'm going to add 3. These happen to be giant cloves of garlic, so that tells you how I feel about garlic. You can add more or less. I'm going to add, they're sliced thinly. If you want, you can dice them instead. I like the way the slice look in the finished dish. And I'm just going to stir those in, and we're going to cook it just until it's maybe 2 or 3 minutes, just until the garlic starts to release its fragrance. You don't want to overcook the garlic. You don't want it to brown in this case, because sometimes in a brownie it gets bitter. By the way, I'm surprised nobody has asked if I salted the eggplant. And I'm sorry for this crazy camera. Wait, let me see what I can do here.
Susan, while you're doing that, I just want to clarify one of the questions. Just so you know, we have 2 other substitutions people have questions about. One had a question about whether jackfruit would work, and what you would recommend for people who are allergic to onions. But hold those answers, because there was actually, I think, a more general question about whether our trips can accommodate vegans or those who don't like eggplant. And of course, the answer is yes. We have had many vegans on our trips, and every cooking school that we go to, and we will be going to cooking schools on our upcoming trip, we have accommodations for those who have a variety of dietary needs. In fact, we are leaving in 3 days for our next Savor trip, which will be in Thessaloniki, Greece, and throughout North Macedonia. And in the cooking school we are going to, we do have a participant who is allergic to onions. So in fact, we know how to get around that very, very easily. So if you are interested in future trips, the answer is yes, we can accommodate different dietary needs. But back to your specific dish, what are your thoughts on substituting jackfruit and using something not oniony?
Well, first of all, leave out the onions. I mean, there's so many flavors in here. You could, if you wanted, you could add more celery, you could add more garlic, but leave out the onions. If you can't eat onions, don't miss out on the dish. Leave out the onions. And you can compensate in other ways, or you might not even need to, because there's so many flavors here. We're just about ready to add, by the way, the tomatoes. And the reason I want to get them in is they need some time to slow cook. So while we do our Q&A and the rest of the webinar, when you slow cook garlic and tomatoes, they get sweet. Just garlic, like there's a sopa de ajo that I have done on our Savor website, and people are like, so much garlic. It doesn't taste like it in the end because you slow cook it so it gets sweet. And I want to talk about the tomatoes, because you can see I have regular tomatoes and I have even some like pearl tomatoes cut. You could use any tomatoes you want. Traditionally, plum tomatoes have been used because that's something from the area that we are talking about in Italy. So I'm adding this, and I'm going to turn down the heat some. So it's like medium, low. And I'm just, you're going to just watch this thing cook and cook and cook. Oh, I forgot. I'm even going to add, this is from some of the last of my tomatoes, my lovely golden tomatoes. Throwing them in. You know, really just use what you have and have fun with it. And that's like, so often, you know, Sephardic recipes weren't written down for a very long time. I have family recipes I had to write because there was no written recipe. It was word of mouth. It was mother to daughter to granddaughter and, aunt to, like in Sarah's case, tias and great aunts who were teaching her to cook. Now, some of them wrote down recipes, so she's very lucky. I'm not so lucky. So I have had to write a lot of recipes for the foods that I wanted to recreate. And I wanted to be able to help other people recreate. I wanted to also say, if you're dairy-free, if you're gluten-free, we can accommodate. So what Sarah said is absolutely true. We've had a lot of accommodations on our trips. And just so you know, the only other thing I'm adding in is not in the recipe, but I love celery leaves. You should always use them in your salads, in your cooking. They are sweet. They are very special. So we're going to add in some celery leaves that I had on my stalks of celery, just to let that cook. Okay, it's already softening, but in 15 minutes, it's going to be amazing.
Susan, we have a question about tomato varieties. Do you include the seeds and juice?
No, thank you for that question. I should have said all the tomatoes have been seeded, and you do not want the juice in here because it will become kind of thin and runny. Some capanadas use tomato paste, and you would cook it before you put the tomatoes in. You would cook the tomato paste a little bit because it gives it much more depth and flavor. And some of them you can use in the winter, use canned plum tomatoes or canned peeled tomatoes and make this dish. It also, by the way, freezes. So you could make it with your summer bounty now and freeze it to have in the depth of December and get that taste of summer going. So this is going to cook nicely. I'm not going to keep stirring for a while. I'm going to let it do its thing. And you can see that there's juice. The tomatoes are still shedding juice, and the eggplant is still shedding juice. Why didn't I salt the eggplant? So most eggplant has been bred to have the bitterness out. The eggplants aren't like they used to be. So you don't have to salt. You also can use different varieties of eggplant. So this is the kind of eggplant that we used initially mostly. This is a problem. This is a heavy eggplant. You don't want eggplants to be heavy. The lighter they are, the less seeds they have, and the fresher they are. So this is a heavy, fat eggplant. I'm going to cut it open because you're going to see what I'm talking about with the seeds. All the way through, there are all these seeds, and they get more and more. So, like, for instance, you can see, and you don't want seeds in this dish. The seeds are bitter. The seeds of eggplant are bitter. So you want smaller, lighter eggplant. Now this one, you can tell I'm going to make another eggplant dish, right? Because I have all these eggplants I'm cutting. This one has much less, and some of these have none when you get a small one. I would, especially the Italian variety, you could use the Italian purple or white. You could use any eggplant you want. The other one I love using is Japanese eggplants, which are the long ones. I couldn't find any at the market this time, but those are the beautiful purple or white long eggplants. All you have to do is just cut those up into chunks, and they don't have the seeds in them like all these other eggplants do. Okay, so this has cooked down. You can see quite a bit. And it has a lot of basil and some parsley on top. I've added the sauce and capers and olives, which remember I said we're adding salty ingredients at the end. But add salt and pepper as you wish. But this is what it looks like. And it's served at room temperature. And honestly, tomorrow this will taste better than tonight. It's one of those dishes that you leave overnight. It's even better. or you can just eat it now. But that's what it looks like. And on our trip, we will be making some of these dishes. Maybe perhaps even we'll make our own caponata. And as I said, you can add things to it. Pine nuts. Some people add raisins, especially golden or sultana raisins. You can make it spicy. Add red pepper flakes or Aleppo pepper, whatever you like to spice things up with. So really, you make it your own. And you can make it more vinegary, less vinegary. But thank you. This is, I hope you all try it and enjoy it. And let us know through your questions to the travel agency, to Ayala, if you have any questions about it or about the food part of the trip. I'll be happy to answer it, and Sarah will be happy to answer the music, and we both answer all the general questions.
Folks, what you saw was not just a Zoom presentation. This was a sampling of the value-added experience you're going to get on this trip. I'm sure many of you have taken group trips before, and you know that there's always an itinerary and nice hotels and tour guides and transportation and meals and all kinds. But what we've given you here today is a sample of the extra that you're going to get on this incredible tour to places in Italy you probably haven't gone. Most people go to the obvious places in Italy. These are the unobvious places. And there's a reason that Savor is going there. And there's a reason that we took this time to have you join us to see Susan's cooking and hear Sarah singing. And that's what's going to make this trip not only unique, but very special. And I hope you'll consider joining us and them on this incredible tour. Once again, we remind you, if you sign up before the end of August, there's a $150 discount. There are only 25 spots available. I think some of them have been sold already, if I'm not mistaken. So there's probably less than that. Oh, do we know? I don't know.
We know 8 spots are sold already, deposits and everything.
Okay, so some people got ahead of the line and have already bought some spots. So there's not a lot of space available. So don't wait too long to sign up, and be sure to call our office if you have any questions at all. We will be sending out the recording of this video via email. We will also include Susan's recipes and any other pertinent information that you'll need to know. It will all be sent out. Okay, looking back at some questions from earlier, you did address this generally, but the question was, if you do like meat, will the trip include those dishes, or is it vegetarian and vegan oriented?
Every meal we try to include a meat, a fish, and something vegetarian. That's our goal. So we never have just a meal that you have to eat meat or you have to eat chicken or whatever. If there's a time where it's very rarely happened, but it has, where a restaurant can't accommodate many choices, then we go with vegetarian. So you're never forced to eat meat, but it's often available.
Susan, will there be cannoli?
There's going to be a lot of cannolis. I think we have to go bakery to bakery, taste testing cannolis.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. All right, any last?
No, I'm just so thrilled. I've been to Italy so many times, and we've actually led trips with Savor to Italy, but doing Southern Italy is something really unique. Because its Sephardic history is just not as well known to the larger world. And we're just thrilled to dive into that with our participants. And the food and the music is just so delightful and so fascinating. And you will have the opportunity to really have a hands-on experience exploring music and food and Jewish culture with us. So I'm very excited for this trip.
Well, I would say ditto, and also I like how on our trips people really create friendships, and there's a comfort level that people get with each other when you have a group of 20 or 25. That's really lovely. And you do get to experience so much hands-on that in a large group you don't get. I've never been to Southern Italy. I love Italy so much. I cannot wait for this trip. So yeah, please, if you can join us, we're going to have fun. We're going to have a good time.
And you will be well taken care of. That's the Ayala way.
Absolutely.
Folks, thanks for joining us. Have a good Sunday night, and hopefully we'll see you in Italy. Take care. Ciao.